Well, good afternoon. It is Thursday, May 11th, 2023, and we have another drive and talk, a special request for a topic by a friend of mine that's an interesting topic for nomads. And that is that some people, at least one well-known YouTuber recently has had problems with, automobile insurance, and others have had problems with banking because of lack of a physical address. So let me preface this by saying that the information I'm going to give here is, let's just say, based on, I have some prior experience. I was in the consumer credit industry for years, and I know a little bit about that, know a little bit about insurance. I just want to say that I think this is about 95% accurate. I could get some things wrong here. I'm not an absolute expert. Do your own research. But I think having a problem with an insurance company for an address and for banking, that's credit cards, or more commonly actual bank accounts, but credit cards are included and are considered banking, are a problem for two very different reasons. And let me talk about banking first. Banking, there's a federal regulation that requires that if one opens a bank account, you must verify a physical address. And so what's the reason for that? The reason for that is it's part of the regulations that have to do with money laundering and fraud. So, and reporting requirements to the IRS. So I won't go into detail into all those things, but I am convinced that if a bank is giving you a hard time because your address isn't a physical address, then that is the reason. And so, where are we running into problems? We're running into problems where you're using a mail service. And so how do they know it's a mail service? Well, here's where I'm about 95% certain, because when I was involved in the banking industry, we routinely would use the address standardization program or database from the Postal Service. And if you take a look up here, I've gotten, it's free. You can go to the USPS.com. It's counterintuitive because you think it would be USPS.gov, but it's not. It's USPS.com. And you can look up, there's a function to look up a zip code, but that is a peek into that database when you put in an address. And you can see here, I put up on the screen my mail service here in Pahrump, and there's a flag there where it shows it's I can't remember the exact phrase, but I'll put an arrow to it. It is showing yes under it being a commercial mail service. So I believe that's an indication to these both insurance companies and banks that, hey, this is not a physical address, and we're having problems. The next thing I'm going to put up here is my physical address in Pahrump, which I use for my bank and insurance company, where I physically am, where my vehicle is, where I am physically, and it's not a mail service, so the flag there is a no. Now, here's a couple of interesting things. There's big, well-known services for nomads, and depending on which one you use, it shows different things. If you're using Escapees out of Texas, I pulled that address up, and it does not show as any kind of private mailbox. It shows as a physical address. But if you use Good Sam's in Florida, I pulled that one up, and it does show as a commercial address. And I'm not saying what'll happen if you use either one of these services, just telling you, showing you what the Postal Service is showing. So it's not because you're a nomad. No one is targeting nomads. For the banks, they're targeting criminals, and we're getting kind of caught up in that process. And if we don't have a physical address, it can be difficult, if not almost impossible, to open a bank account or get a credit card if most of the banks are using this information in this database. So there are, you can do a lot of research. There on the internet and on YouTube. There are lots of other ways to get a fixed permanent address so you don't have these kinds of problems. Now, insurance, car insurance or RV insurance, motor vehicle insurance, they're doing the same thing, but they're doing it for a different reason. The location where you have that vehicle, your home where you live, is driving the rates for insurance. Right? The rate for insurance is going to be much higher if you give a Manhattan address versus a small Midwestern town address. Right? The rates are going to be vastly different, hundreds of dollars different. So it's based on your address, the zip code that you're in, and what kind of experience that the insurance company has in that area. So you can see that if I'm allowed to, pick an inexpensive part of the country and just say that's where my car is, and, be wherever I want to be and save that money, the insurance companies will go broke if people are able to do that. So they get pretty serious about making sure people are really living where they're living. Again, that presents a problem for nomads if you don't have a home base. No insurance company is going to overly penalize you for living in XYZ town and traveling full-time or almost full-time. People are allowed to travel, and if you're retired, you can go anywhere you want, and they're probably not going to cancel your insurance. But, the understanding is that people have homes and people have permanent homes, and it's not about being a nomad. Again, it's about having guidelines and rules in the insurance company to ensure they don't get ripped off by people giving fraudulent locations to get lower rates. So I'm getting to where I'm going here. I'm gonna stop, and I'm gonna come back and continue. All right, I was just here helping some friends, and you'll see them. They're taking off from Pahrump, and we're gonna see each other down the road. Bye bye. They're headed up north. It's starting to get pretty damn hot here in Pahrump. But anyway, I wanted to continue with what I was talking about, where yes, the banks and insurance companies can make it very difficult if you're going to live full time. They're not targeting us, but we're getting caught up in the controls that they have in place to prevent fraud. And we're not committing fraud. We're just living in our rigs on the road. In order to fit into the basic rules, you have to have some semblance of a permanent address that hopefully is not on the post office database as a commercial mail organization. So, what are your choices? Well, a foolproof one is, if you have a good friend or a family member with a home or an apartment in the state that you want to declare as your residency, You can even draw up a leasing agreement with them, and so you have a copy of a lease, and that can count as your permanent address. As long as you're actually treating that as your home address, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but I think I'm confident in my permanent address here in Pahrump because I'm going back there for significant amounts of time every year. And I don't think that there's a specific amount of time, but I think that if it's just theoretical and you never go there, you stand a bigger chance of having problems versus it's a physical address, you do have a relationship there, you do go there. So my intent in this video wasn't to provide absolute solutions for this, is just to draw attention to the problem and get people to understand that if you're using a commercial mail service and that's all the address that you're using, you could get letters from your insurance company saying, we need these following items to prove that you live there, or we're going to terminate your policy, and you find you're not able to provide those things. I heard that an underwriter through a YouTube video, a YouTuber got a letter from the underwriter for an insurance company, and they wanted 3 months worth of bank statements. And when he asked why, the answer was, well, we want to see that you're shopping where you say you live, that kind of thing. I think that's pretty extreme. But if you're doing this lifestyle, like we all talk about being prepared for mechanical problems happening with our rigs and being prepared to deal with that, we also need to be prepared for dealing with these sort of legal logistical problems with bank accounts and insurance companies. I mean, you might be able to live without a bank account. I think it'd be pretty tough, but I don't think you can. You certainly can't legally drive a car without any insurance. Certainly in every state I'm aware of. So these are some pretty real risks, and I showed you that my place on the database showed as a no under commercial mail, and the other two places I did show a yes. And I don't mean to say that's the be all and end all. There may be other databases that banks and insurance companies are using that I'm not aware of that may have different information. I've been out of the banking business for many decades, so I don't know for sure. Anyway, it is another thing to be prepared for. I certainly feel prepared for it, and surprisingly, having a bank account for many years in good standing is not insulation. The friend of mine that suggested that I do that had many years positive relationships with her bank, and she feels like she's gonna, unless she comes up with a good provable physical address, she runs the risk of losing her banking relationships. I think she's going to be fine. She has lots of options, but not all of us have a lot of options, and certainly this one might take some planning. Anyway, that is the topic for Drive and Talk today. Personal updates, my hip arthritis, and I had a few bad days when I went to my physical therapy, and told him about what was going on, and he said, I think your 2-a-day stretches, or you're doing a little too much. Let's cut it back to once a day. And he massaged it's not a muscle, it's a band or something in my leg, and that made a difference. So things are a little bit better, and per the advice I've gotten from quite a few people, I've made an appointment with a deep tissue massage therapist here in Pahrump, and that's going to happen next Wednesday, and hopefully that'll be another avenue for some relief. And if that doesn't work, or doesn't work significantly enough, I can add maybe a chiropractor to the mix up here, and just experiment around and see what works for me. It's coming up pretty soon. It'll be 6 months that I've been restricted in my ability to freely walk around the planet, and that sucks. I'm telling you, I go out and about and I get jealous seeing people walk around unencumbered, and I'm limping along. He also told me to, when I'm doing my half-a-mile walk every morning, to see if I can minimize the use of the cane to, build up some more strength. So I'm doing that. I'm carrying the cane in case it gets painful, or if I, feel like I'm going to lose my balance. At any rate, also, I think I said on last time, but it doesn't hurt to repeat it, I got another long email from the Yosemite Park Ranger on my assignment for this summer, and the prior email said July or August opening, and this email says the first week of August would be the earliest it'd be opening. So I'm running the risk here that I may not get to do it at all. That campground may not open at all this year. Who knows? But I'm going to stick with it and have my hand raised saying, I'm still here, I'm going to volunteer. And if it doesn't open, I'm sure I'll be qualified to do it the next season. I just want to make a good impression and stay in the National Park Service as a volunteer camp host, so I can spend my summers in national parks. So that's the goal. And the only thing that could really hurt me is if it comes to August and they need me and I'm still limping around, I won't be able to do the job. But I really don't think that's going to happen. I think I'm going to be fine. I have a good feeling about that. So we're here at Smith's, and it's been a while since I've done some grocery shopping. The shelves are empty. We're out of cat treats, and George is not happy. Dottie's not with me because the temperature outside the car is showing 88. So Dottie, if I have to stop anywhere where I have to turn the car off and can't take Dottie with me, Dottie stays at home. There's some places where I'll park and leave the engine running and lock the door while I'm in a store. That's not a good idea in Pahrump at all. You can get your window smashed and they'll drive off with my car and my dog. And I don't need to tell you which is more critical. The truck is replaceable. Dottie is not. So I'm in the parking lot. I'm trying to think what else is up. So my couple of friends that Lori and Barb are leaving right now. That's kind of sad because I was able to go to dinners with them, and we went to the Grand Canyon together. So my friend Tim is still here for another 5 or 6 days. But after that, I'm sort of on my own again. But there are lots of really friendly people in Preferred RV Resort, so I'm still pretty happy there. And that's, I think, guys, that's all the news that's fit to print today. And if you know stuff about domiciles and insurance companies and banks that I may not have gotten right, I'd love it if you put that information in into the comments, and I think everybody will really appreciate that, especially if you're in the industry. And I'm not shy at all about someone calling me out, giving bad information. So I'm going to respond well to that. I would rather be called out for getting something wrong than putting bad information out into the universe. So that's pretty much it for today. I hope everybody's doing great, and I'll see you in the next video.